This is the 10-Minute Contrarian Podcast. This is VP. We are a solutions-based podcast, diving into the world of contrarian investing and alternative finance. You can find us hosted on the No Nonsense Forex YouTube channel, NoNonsenseForex.com, and podcast players everywhere. Episode 153 is brought to us by Bybit. Attention, all potential new signups and those who have already signed up through my affiliate link. Check this shit out. There's a big promotion that just popped up. I'll read it to you. Exclusive campaign, 100K prizes with guaranteed win. I don't know what that means. Deposit and trade now to win. You can already be deposited, by the way. The prizes are a 100K funded account, a 50K funded account, an F1 race ticket with hotel and flight included, surprise Bitcoin, surprise ETH, APTR Launchpad allocation, don't know what that is, and then USDT airdrops. This is going all the way through the 30th of June. You need to click the link down below in the show notes that takes you to the Bybit blog. It will have all the information you need. My affiliate link is at the bottom, and my link will be replaced with this new link that will give you access to this promotion. As most of my existing clients can tell you, these things happen all the time because on Bybit, membership has its rewards. It is the 10-Minute Contrarian Podcast, and a day late. Thank you for being patient with me. I'm on vacation, and I'm driving a lot, which I normally don't do. But this was a much better day to shoot the podcast. But thank you for joining us. It's a very important episode this week. As you guys know, we focus on offense and defense here, probably in equal portions. But I would say of the two, defense is certainly the most important because what good is offense if you're just going to lose all that money you made anyway? And so I think it's very important that 153 episodes in to this podcast that we talk about some general OpSec, operational security. This is something that 99% of people do not pay enough attention to. And if you are in the money game, as we are, and if you spread yourself out, as we do, and if you are in crypto at all, and the vast majority of you are, listen very closely to this episode, even if you do not think it applies to you, because parts of it almost certainly do. So hackers over time and scammers over time have gone up in number, and their hacks and scams have gotten more savvy, quite a bit more. I can tell you this firsthand, really, because I am a public personality in the financial space, and I do talk about crypto. And so, what do I get for putting all this information out there for free and asking nothing in return? I get to be hacked and targeted more than you. Hooray. Not very good OpSec on my part. You're supposed to keep all this quiet. But it was the choice I made. If these scammers only knew that in real life I actually live under a bridge and turn tricks for money, it's awful. But I can tell you right now, people are coming after me almost daily at this point. So I know what to look for, and I can also see this whole process evolve. And it is evolving. Now, you still might say, I'm not dumb enough to fall for any of this stuff. I don't click anybody's link. I don't answer my phone when a strange number pops up. And look, those are all good things. I don't do those things either. But a few weeks ago, I was on Discord, and I was on a server I don't frequent very often, but I had an issue, and they didn't have a support subforum. So I just simply asked where that was because I had a question, and then somebody who looked like a mod said, for all support questions, go here, and provided a link. And I wasn't really paying full attention to my screen. I had somebody in my apartment, and she was trying to talk to me, and there was music playing in the background, and I was just trying to get this one thing done. And I clicked on the link like an idiot. And thankfully, my virus software caught it and said that they were trying to send me a Trojan. And I'm like, oh my God. I just did that thing I said I was never going to do. I just did that thing that secretly in my head, I don't say it out loud because it's not nice, but I just did that thing that I secretly make fun of other people for. Like, especially during the PFP NFT craze. There are so many people getting their NFTs stolen. I'm like, you idiot. It's your fault. Stop clicking on those links. Stop desiring all these free promotions and things like that. And these things won't happen to you. Because look, things like the blockchain and things like Google are very secure on their own. but they instantly become very insecure if you are dumb enough to let them through the front door. And when I say dumb enough, you don't even have to be dumb nowadays. You just have to be caught off guard. And this episode was inspired. I've always had OpSec on the spreadsheet, but I pushed it to the front after I heard a really great podcast episode. I'll reference it in just a moment. But today we're going to focus in on one main aspect of your operational security, and that's going to be everything that goes on through Google. Now, even if you're a super Apple fanboy, and Apple has great security, by the way. That's why iPhones barely ever get stolen, because you can't really use them if it's stolen. It becomes a brick the second it changes hands. But if you do anything on Google, the one flaw, I guess, with Google, it's not really a flaw. It's there for your convenience, and it's the reason why I use it a lot, is because all of their apps are interconnected, and all of that data goes to the same cloud. So not really so much the search engine aspect of it, but if you have a Gmail address anywhere, or if you use Google Docs or Google Sheets, or if you use the Google Authenticator to get into your crypto, any of those things. And then if you do use Gmail, you're probably getting bank statements and a lot of sensitive information through Gmail, to where if somebody were to be able to access it, this would really be a problem. And like I said before, hackers are getting savvier, and they're going up in number. Now, going forward, what we know about the future of the economy, if the economy starts to fall, and if it falls bad, and if it stays down for a while, and it creates hard times, do you think the number of people who are looking to steal from you is going to go up or down? Now, I'm not a fortune teller, even though I play one on TV, but I'm going to say that number is going to go way up. And again, these things get more and more sophisticated. So the podcast I was referring to was the What Bitcoin Did podcast with a guest. His name is Junseth. I'm going to link that down below in the show notes if you want to go check it out. It is a long-form podcast, but it is fascinating. So what happened was, Junseth is a Bitcoiner. He's very sharp, and he gets a lot of scam calls as well, a lot more than I do. I just got done complaining. This guy really gets it bad. And so he answered one, and he recorded the conversation. And when he busted this guy out for being a scammer, he also showed a little bit of interest in what the scammer does. And this dumbass scammer just blabbed everything, told this guy everything he does, start to finish. Now, some of the lifestyle stuff was obviously embellished, but that's not the part you really got to concern yourself about. You need to see how this whole thing has evolved. This is no longer some goofy guy with an Indian accent who is only targeting old people because they're the only ones who are unsavvy enough to fall for something like that. No. I mean, that still happens. But this guy was able to find out exactly when his target needed a password change or something like that. And then he called, acting as a rep from Google. He was able to spoof, his name onto your phone. They can spoof email addresses with links that look like it's coming from Google. I mean, I'm telling you, this stuff has come a long way. And this kid who was trying to scam just broke down exactly how they do it. And he was targeting crypto, because unlike money in your bank account, once they steal your crypto, getting it back is almost impossible. And you don't have to say this out loud, but how many of you out there have your seed phrases stored on a Google Doc or a Microsoft Word doc? That information goes to the cloud, What would happen if somebody were able to break into your Gmail account? They have access to all of those things in the Google suite. If they can get into your Gmail account, you're pretty much done. And this is not the only way they get you. So as we rotate into the solutions portion of this podcast episode, again, we're just going to focus on this one aspect of overall operational security. I'll add on a little bonus part at the end. It's not going to apply to everybody, but I think should apply to everybody, but we'll get there. So I'm going to list some things, and then I'm going to add another video for you to watch down in the show notes. It's about a 10, 11-minute video from a guy who's way more tech savvy than me, so you can actually hear it from somebody who knows what they're talking about from that side. But let me give you a quick little checklist of things you need to make sure you do as soon as possible. Now, again, Google security is excellent. But the one thing you have to really avoid is somebody getting access to your Gmail, because then they have access to everything else as well. Make sure on all of your Google accounts you have a long password. I've always heard 10 digits. I think the guy in the video I'm sending you says 12. Have capital and lowercase letters. Have a symbol in there. And avoid names, common names for people or pets or something like that. That's a big one, because it's always easy for people to remember their children's names or their wife's name or their dog's name. But hackers are aware of that too, remember. Now, if your password is too short, a cheater way, this is not the best way, but it's certainly a lot better than what you probably have, is to simply take the password you have and duplicate it. So do it twice. So if your password is something terrible like user123, just make it user123 user123. At the very least, you've now turned a 7-digit password into a 14. But I can even tell you, not my exact passwords, but what mine actually are, because they're very personal to me. My two main passwords are misheard song lyrics on my part. They're two fairly obscure songs. I completely misinterpreted the lyrics to be something completely nonsensical. They're not even real words. And it was always very funny to me once I learned what the actual lyrics were. So I took the incorrect lyrics, put a number after it, and those became my passwords for probably the last 10, 15 years. Nobody's ever going to figure that out. So maybe something like that could be an idea for you. But weak passwords are the number one way people get into other people's Gmail accounts. The next thing you can do is make sure you have two-factor authorization on at all times. It is extremely annoying, especially for things you access all the time. I get that. But what's the alternative? Now, if your phone also gets stolen, this might be problematic. But the chances of that are low, and I'll talk about this a bit towards the very end of the episode. But two-factor authentication is the one thing that railroads most hackers once they have already cracked your password. The next thing is to make sure your antivirus software is on point. I'm not going to give recommendations. I'm not going to tell anybody what I use, but I do use a combination of free and a paid service. It's unfortunate that any of us need to do this, but it is absolutely essential in this day and age. You can write off the paid version on your taxes at least, but make sure you have a paid version. Do some research ahead of time to find out what's good, and make sure it's something that you don't need. You don't need to run scans manually. It's something that'll just sit there and do it every day for you. Those are typically the best. Now, for those of you who don't want to listen to the What Bitcoin Did podcast, let me just tell you the main takeaway that I got from it. And I instantly made this change right away, because I don't think anybody listening to this podcast right now who uses this particular app has made this change. For anybody who uses Google Authenticator for anything, you need to pause this podcast, immediately go there right now, click on your profile picture, scroll down, and click Use Without an Account. You currently have your authenticator connected to your Google account, or one of your Google accounts. And I'm not going to explain why here. The podcast does a good job of this, better than I could, but safe to say, this is not what you want. And the default is for it to already be connected to your Google account. There's really no reason why it should be. And if you have crypto of any type, or are thinking of having crypto at some point in your life, make sure Authenticator is completely disconnected from everything else. That's a special bonus tidbit for those of you who decided to stay to the end of this podcast. At the very end, this is the thing I was mentioning before, and this is something that I do, but just because I live abroad. And I live in places where they always say that gringos get targeted in Latin America. I have never experienced this at any level. I think when I was in Colombia, somebody was trying to scam me. Somebody who spoke perfect English, and he approached me as I was walking, and that should be a red flag 100% of the time. And I don't know what he said to me, but I'm just like, hey, bro, I'm not interested in whatever it is you want to say. And I just kept walking. But in like 3-4 years of being down here, it's not been a problem, yet I still take this precaution because you just never know, and this can happen anywhere. But when I'm out and about, and I like to walk a lot, so when I'm out, I don't have my main smartphone on me. In Latin America, it's called a flecha. You have a little cheap phone that has just what you need on it and nothing more. So if it ever gets taken, those people who took it don't have access to any of your personal information. Because a lot of people who take phones like that, they don't just take them somewhere and sell them. No, they try to access your information. They know what they're doing, and they know exactly what to look for and how to extract your money from you as quickly as possible. So I have, it's not really a dumb phone. It's still a smartphone, but it's a cheap one. It's an older one. And all it has on it is a podcast player, and not a podcast player like Apple Podcasts or Spotify that has your information on it. I have complete third-party, knows nothing about me podcast app. And then I have a rideshare app. And this app is not connected to Apple Pay or Google Pay or anything like that. It is only connected to one credit card. Not a debit card to where you can access my entire bank account, but just a credit card that I can shut down very easily and only has so much available on it. And then I do have my WhatsApp account on there as well, which is probably the most problematic, but not really if you think about it. If I were to ever get that little phone stolen, I could immediately go back to my regular phone and get all those things handled. Yeah, and then I do some things from an OpSec perspective that go a bit further, but we'll save that for a different episode. I really wanted to hone in on just this one thing this time around because I could just go and go on this subject. But I hope there were some things in this episode which either helped you or at the very least made you more aware of what's going on out there and a problem that is probably going to do nothing but increase as time goes on. Make sure you check out those links down in the show notes. And just know that even when it comes to stuff like this, taking the proper precautions almost seems eccentric to your average person. But contrarians are not your average people. We will do things that make us seem a little bit crazy, when in reality, we're just early.